Let me start off by saying, flaws and all, I love The Cave.
Let me show in a parable to what extent our nature is enlightened or unenlightened.
A work of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, derived from his book The Republic, The Cave is a story, or more accurately, a thought experiment, one questioning our reality and just how real it may be. Plato depicts a set of four peoples who have been born into bondage, living day and night, gazing at the same rock wall, probably for their entire existence. Their only source of entertainment, of enrichment, are the shadows. Shadows cast by puppeteers, whose purpose is to entertain these people, whose purpose is to keep them from wondering about anything beyond the shadows, from wondering about anything beyond the cave. One day, one of these people is randomly released and shown the wonders of the real world, the world beyond the cave. Plato reckons that this individual will grow accustomed to, and ultimately fond of, reality. That they'll want to bring their comrades from the cave up to the surface, even if said comrades don't want to leave. He ends his experiment by suggesting that one's purpose is to serve the community.
They shall give of their help to one another, wherever each class is able to help the community.
And though this ending is one that's noble, it's not the reason I find such great meaning in his work. Instead, I find myself quite attached to what I perceive as the core of Plato's story. Hey, I'm Earth to Fatt. I enjoy movies, video essays, much like this one, technology, and too many other things to list. I have a condition known as visual snow, a condition that, in my case, affects my vision constantly. Let me give you an example. This is how most of you likely see, pretty normal. This is what I see. Seeing things like this, it often feels like I'm less seeing things and more watching things, watching everything through someone else's eyes or through a television screen. And though it's not an inherent side effect of the condition, it does lead me to having frequent bouts of disassociation and just an overall disconnection from reality. And because of all that, I do end up frequently asking myself, what is real? Thomas Anderson is probably the most boring person you've ever seen. Something I can personally relate to. He works a 9 to 5 at a respectable
software company. You have a social security number, you pay your taxes, and you help your landlady carry out her garbage.
Like those in the cave, Thomas Anderson accepts what he sees because he's expecting to wake up. Thomas Anderson truly is the most boring man alive. And yet, Thomas Anderson is also the most important man in the world. Programmer by day and hacker by night, Thomas Anderson transforms into Neo under the cover of darkness. While Thomas Anderson may have spent his days in the living mundane, Neo spent his evenings, his entire life after 5 p.m. searching for the truth. The Matrix is one of my favorite examples of how you adapt a fable or folktale, something that holds so much meaning but is just such a reach from how reality actually stands. Nobody's going to believe that people could truly exist in such a way as Plato describes, not able to move, forced to stare at a wall for eternity. And man, they don't even address some of the basic necessities. How do these people stay fed? Where do they go to the bathroom? I don't even want to think about that. The story just isn't believable. I certainly don't believe it. So to think that all this movie, all the Matrix did, was suggest that the curtain pulled in front of us was more than just shadows, more than just simple shapes. This curtain is our lives, it's our reality. This pattern of modernization never lets up throughout the film. The cave suggests that those who are confined to their hole in the ground would want to kill the one. But why? Jealousy? Hatred? This isn't ever very clear in Plato's story beyond suggesting that they would see the one as inferior, which raises more questions than answers.
And if anyone tried to release another and lead him up to the light, let them only catch the offender, and they would put him to death.
Plato's story has its flaws that the Matrix fixes with ease. Why would everyone want to kill Neo? Well, maybe it's because the shadows are more than just the world around them. The shadows are sentient, they're brutal, and they enforce this reality by any means necessary by possessing any one necessary. Instead of it being a straight path at a figurative blindness, it's a maze. And to get out, you have to follow the white rabbit. The guide, a random character to Plato, has more purpose now. Morpheus chose Neo specifically. Morpheus believes that Neo is the One. The One isn't just the only enlightened being, the One is the prophecy, the person who will free everyone from eternal blindness, the person who will end the enslavement of us caused by the machines. The cave is an interesting thought experiment, yes, and the Matrix is that experiment in practice, in practicality. The Matrix is, for lack of a better term, believable. And though Neo's story is less of a mirror of the caveman, the one in the cave, and more of a retelling, it does make it a priority to reference its inspiration. The Matrix means many things to many people. A very popular theory that in recent years has been backed by the Wachowskis themselves is that the Matrix is an allegory on transitioning genders, and a commentary on the suppression of transgendered people. There's even a character who's theorized to have originally been a direct reference to this theme, originally being written as a character who would switch genders depending on which reality they were in. Though all that remains of this idea is their distinctly white clothing and of course their name, Switch. That's the beauty of the art form of cinema. Plato's story is very cut and dry, and it tells you what happens and how it will happen, and it doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. The Matrix takes that and runs with it, adding or changing many details, some bigger than others, and ultimately creating what I believe is a far superior version of the cave. These historical works, these inspirations in the medium that is liberal arts, they will always have their place. And in an era where modernizing the treasures of our past is continually stepped on with low-quality remakes, low-effort filmmaking, something this very franchise is not exempt from, it's hard to believe in wanting to retell anything anymore, lest we risk damaging the image left in our minds of what came before. I believe that, despite all odds, the Wachowskis managed to pull off a modern retelling of a philosopher's folktale. The Matrix not only modernized filmmaking, but it modernized one of the most treasured stories in philosophy. The cave, at its core, is an artistic thought experiment, in essence, a concept. The Matrix is that concept and more, in execution.
You ever have that feeling where you're not sure if you're awake or still dreaming?
What is real? How do you define real?
Better to be the poor servant of a poor master than to endure anything rather than think as they do and live after their manner.
You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
Well, there has to be something that we can do.
One life, you're Thomas A. Anderson. The other life is lived in computers.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one who has to walk through it.